Turbo and 2K show.
What is up, 2K crew? It is that time of the week again. 2K's is hot and heavy, coming in hot, coming in late, but we're still here. But yeah, we got an awesome show. We're gonna start out with kind of some bad news. We're gonna try to postpone that as long as we can. But 2K's, what an amazing weekend of sports so far.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of knew going into it what it was going to be. Obviously, wish the outcome on some of the things would be different, but still enjoyed sitting back watching it all weekend. We were very, very spoiled with, and not just one sport.
No. We had baseball playoffs are coming down to the nitty gritty. We've got the NFL in full swing as well as college football. And if you really want to get into it, I think hockey started and NBA starting here pretty quick, but who gives a shit about them? But yeah, we're going to start off the show with some news here, ladies and gentlemen. But before we do that, thank you to everyone over on TikTok watching us live over there. We've got the YouTubes, we've got Twitter, we've got our Facebook group. Good to see everyone live. Let us know where you're at and who you are and where you're at. And for all of you that are catching us on the audio side, thank you. And wherever you consume your podcast material, just look up Turbo and 2Ks and you'll find us there. 2Ks, let's start off with some news. I mean, there really wasn't a whole lot of news that I had planned here, but big news out of Detroit. And let's start positive. Well, positive for Detroit fans, not positive for you because you're a Cowboys fan. But
Well, I did make the commitment to that. I'm also,
That's true.
became a Lions fan. And,
That's true.
So today I just chose I'm going to stick with the Lions.
There you go.
It's a lot easier life. I actually chose this before the season even started. I'm like,
Yeah.
because I said last year at the end of the year, I'm like, I'm fucking done with this team until they make a change at head coach, until they get rid of or they make a change at quarterback. I'm tired of Dak. I'm tired of McCarthy. And until those guys are out of there, and Jerry fucking Jones is out of there, I'm not coming back to the Dallas side. So I did say that last year. I still find myself in games where Detroit's not playing. I still root for them, but it is a lot easier being a Lions fan these days.
And it's probably a lot more fun because you just look at the way the team plays.
Yeah.
It's no one's stressing, no one's pressing. Hell, Dan Campbell is amazing, and not only Detroit came in there and beat that ass. I mean,
Oh my God! Yeah.
pretty sure everyone on the offense scored. They were even trying to get offensive linemen touchdowns, and Kristen was sitting there going, "Man, it's got to suck to be a Cowboys player or fan because it's the start of the fourth quarter and the Lions are doing trick plays to get their offensive
They're just
linemen
trying to get, it was like, you get a touchdown and you get a touchdown and you get a touchdown. I mean, they were trying a lot of different things. And I think that's what kind of makes obviously the news of Aiden Hutchinson so hard to, kind of come to grips with right now is everything went perfect for them.
Yes.
And you have to be so excited about going on the road, going into Jerry World, and just basically destroying them from start to finish.
Yeah.
That game was over by the end of the first quarter.
Yeah.
But I have to imagine that locker room is probably feeling a little somber after the game.
Yeah.
And
especially considering he's not even making the trip back to Detroit with them. He's staying in Dallas having surgery tonight, you said?
That's what it sounds like. That's what I was just reading was they were going to do it tonight. And so I mean, I guess if you look ahead to obviously a very gruesome injury, you don't ever want to, like seeing that happen to anybody or watching it. But I think a little bit of, if you want to try to find any positive in it, it's probably better than any, knee injury,
Yes.
Anything like that. It's where you're talking over a calendar year of recovery to where I would imagine, and I'm no doctor, I'm no expert in this, but I would imagine, obviously not going to play another down this year, but I would imagine he's ready to go come OTAs next season. So,
one of the things that immediately came to my mind was Trey Burton, the tight end from Chicago?
Yeah.
Kind of a similar situation, and dude almost died. So, yes, it sucks that he broke his leg.
Yeah.
But from what I watched and what I've seen, all the internet doctors, because, they're always right.
Yeah.
It didn't look like he injured his knee. Ankle looks fine. So it could be a whole lot worse.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I'm sure that we're going to hear more news as the night goes on into tomorrow. But I mean, the only thing I'm concerned about with him is him as a person, not him as the football player. So let's just, get through obviously these next few weeks are going to be very hard for him, but get through that. And hopefully in the near future, we'll be seeing him back on the field. Yeah.
Because not only is it, he was coming into this game after the Lions have already had their bye week, was still the leading rusher the leading sacker in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean he's just relentless. He's nonstop. He outworks everybody. He's always constantly trying to get better. I mean, whether you are a Lions fan, whether you're a Michigan fan, I just don't know how you can be a fan of any sport and not be a fan of his because of just the way that he plays and just that high motor. Kind of reminds me a lot of Max Crosby with the Raiders, just that high motor guy.
Every white defensive end has high motor.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean that's if you want to stay in this league and you want to play for a long time, and you want to be as good as what those guys are, you better fucking bring it every play.
And if you're Max Crosby, you tell quarterbacks that they don't know what the hell the whole line has no idea what you're trying to tell them.
Yeah, and now I mean that kind of looks at Lions. Look, they're piggybacking off of what happened last year. They obviously make it to that Final Four, come up just short with San Francisco. I have to believe that here come these next few weeks, they're going to be addressing that pass rush and whether they have it internally, they're going to take a look and see what they got. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see them. They obviously have the pieces and to potentially work up a trade with somebody, and there's going to be some teams that are not even playoff teams that have very good pass rushers that they're probably going to be looking for something to for somebody to add into that. And Man, wouldn't Max Crosby be the perfect guy to look at?
Well, it was rumored that not only were the Lions going to trade for Devontae Adams, but when you get one, you get both of them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Twitter had that figured out 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Crosby kind of shot that down, which what's Crosby supposed to say in that situation? He's obviously not going to come out and say pull like what Devontae's doing.
Yeah.
It was obvious going into the season that Devontae wanted out of there. I'm not saying that Crosby wants out of there, but it's going to come down to what the Raiders want to do and what the Raiders see in their future. And obviously, they got a lot more things to worry about than keeping Devontae and Crosby right now, because they're just not a good football team, even with those two. I mean, you're talking one of the better receivers in the game, one of the best pass rushers in the game, and they're still just not a very good football team. So they got a lot of things they got to figure out there. And for Detroit, you just got to pick up now and go without your best pass rusher, arguably your best player on the defensive side of the ball. You got to go without it, because you still are a good enough team to win it all. So.
Oh, absolutely. And kind of the part that stinks the most is, yes, he's the best player arguably on the whole team, but he's kind of the heartbeat. If the team goes as he goes, and that's just kind of the role that he's taken, not only in Detroit, but when he was with Michigan. That's just kind of in his DNA. So yes, that to me, that's the saddest part, is when you get like that uncaged animal that you kind of have to put back in a cage for a little while. And it, like I said, T's and P's. Hopefully it's not as bad as what a lot of the internet doctors say.
Yeah, and a lot of times with injuries like this too, you can see where a team kind of takes off when this happens.
Yes.
For me, I think there's a possibility of that happening, but with it being so early in the season, that's only going to last you for a few weeks. So it's not something like, I look back at last year with the Michigan offensive lineman going down with the injury in the Ohio State game, and I thought Michigan kind of just took off from that.
Yeah.
Well, they only had to go play 3 games, and it was starting postseason play right after that. After that injury occurred, and I thought they kind of played for him. That was a big deal to them. With this situation, it happened so early in the season. You have weeks and weeks and weeks before we even get to the playoffs. It's that's why I truly believe, like, I think Detroit has to go and do something. They got to go they're going to have to, bring somebody in that can basically, you're never going to be able to replace him, but you have to bring somebody in that can wreak havoc and get to the quarterback.
And if you happen to get said player for a couple of years, you get Hunt back next year.
That's the thing too.
All of a sudden,
it's not like this Lions
even
team's
better.
not going to be a playoff caliber team next year or the year after that. Like this is a young team. They just continue to get better, and it just seems like Brad Holmes is just hitting the right button over and over and over again, and just doing nothing but making this team better. So we'll see how it plays out, but it just, you can't help but, since I've watched the injury, I watched the entire game. It's just been kind of sick to my stomach and heartbroken since it happened.
Before we go any further, I was at a open house with my realtor friend Cynthia, and her son and I got to talking, and he subbed to our channel. So he says, "Go Bengals 2024." So big shout out to you, dude. It's a pleasure meeting you this afternoon, and keep an eye out on him. He's an aspiring podcaster himself.
Sweet, yeah. And Bengals fan?
Yeah.
This is time. Bengals gotta go now. They have to rack up some wins here these next few, and
the perfect opportunity against this Giants team, which is
absolutely. But the Giants have played a little bit better the last couple weeks, so I don't think that this is just a guarantee. But like it's kind of put up or shut up time for Cincinnati. Their schedule kind of plays in their favor here the next few weeks, and hopefully after another month or so, they're right back in the thick of things.
Yeah, because that Ravens team, like we'll get to later.
Yeah. They're a problem.
They're gonna be a problem for a lot of people. They're gonna be a problem for a lot of people. Well, 2Ks, let's jump into this playoff talk here. Big round of applause for Tigers. What a run!
Yeah.
What a run! And you're the Tigers fan here, so let me kind of get off what I need to get off, and then I'll give you the floor. Tigers fans, you have all the momentum in the world heading towards next year.
Absolutely.
This is the youngest roster like in the history of baseball. And for all the Tigers fans that said that you should have pulled Skubal earlier, fuck you. No, he's the reason you're there. He's your horse. The bullpen was gassed at that point. So
if you pull Scooble, who are you getting through that game with? I mean, everybody, and like you said, they're gassed. They needed a couple days off to kind of reset, and on top of that, like a lot of those guys in that bullpen probably needed a off season off. Like it's they had because this basically piecing these games together didn't just start when they played for the Houston series. It started a month and a half, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
When they started to get hot doing this, and these kids, they ran with it and they caught lightning in a bottle, and it was so much fun to watch, but it's not sustainable, and it's just not, and it's like absolutely they have a ton to go off of what happened this year and take that into next year, but like if you think that this Tigers roster is going to be very similar next year to what it is right now, I think you're crazy. I think the Tigers have got to be very, very active in what they do this offseason. They have to bring in starting pitching because you can't just piece together, this all together. And bullpens are weird. Very, very, very few times do you see bullpens that have a season like they had or a season like what Cleveland's bullpen has had, and then follow that up and do the same thing the next year.
Yeah.
It's just you get certain guys that everything works out and you're able to go and run it for a season, but very, very rare do you keep at that same thing and just roll with bullpens and have a lot of success doing it. So to me, the Tigers, yeah, absolutely. It was so much fun to watch. I think it was like a 0.2 chance that they had to make the playoffs. If you go back a couple months ago, they got hot. They were the hottest team in baseball. They ran through, and made it to the postseason. They go into Houston and win that series, and then go to Cleveland, steal game 2 from Cleveland on the home run off of Class A, who's been the best closer in the game all season long. Gives up a 3-run home run, wins game 3 back in Detroit in front of the home crowd. That Detroit crowd was just
electric.
I mean, been waiting so long to see this, and then unfortunately slip up in game 4. And I mean, I'm the biggest Tigers fan I know. And when they didn't get it done in game 4 and were not able to win that, even though you had Scooble go in game 5, I just did not have a good feeling about going back to Cleveland. Scooble had been so good and basically been untouched. I mean, he was untouchable in his 2 games that he had already pitched in the playoffs, hadn't given up a run. And I just had that feeling going into yesterday's game where it was like, it's going to be very, very tough, and going, especially with Cleveland being back at home, and then the way the game started off, Detroit's offense they left way too many guys on base. They were not able to capitalize. I actually thought that Stephen Vogt made a little bit of a mistake by going to the bullpen too.
I thought so too.
I thought Matthew Boyd had really good stuff and was cruising, striking out batters. And when he went to the bullpen a little bit early, I thought, well, man, maybe they might not be able to kind of run that, what they've done all season long with those, what they call the 4 horsemen. I mean, that's the best bullpen in baseball.
Historically good.
Oh man, so good. And when they took Boyd out, I thought an inning too soon on that. I was like, well, who are they going to get through that? And the Tigers kind of made them pay for that a little bit. Unfortunately, though, Scooble showed a little bit of a chink in the armor, and I mean, hadn't really seen it all season long. And then, has the hit batter when he hits Ramirez in the arm, and then I think he was I just don't think his head was really in it after that happened. I mean, you kind of had a stoppage there. Obviously, he does not hit Ramirez on purpose. I think he's upset about hitting it. I honestly think just the competitor that Scooble is, like, I think he was actually kind of worried that Ramirez was hurt, hurt seriously. And for a 5-6 time All-Star that Ramirez is, like, you don't want to hurt somebody doing by something like that. So
especially a dude who doesn't run his mouth, he doesn't peacock, he
goes about everything the right way, like just a great baseball player. And so I think Scooble was a little bit upset about that, and I just don't think he was really in it. And then you go at, you have Lane Thomas, who's been maybe the hottest player on the team for Cleveland.
The best acquisition at the trade deadline, because he absolutely killed the Tigers.
What's he do? He fucking ambushes Scooble on the first pitch. And
same thing he did game 1.
Game 1, yeah. So, no, it was a great series to watch. You had great bullpens. Offenses that obviously have their struggles. I mean, they're not going to be an offense like the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Mets. So, they don't have that caliber offense, but they have pitching, and that's where, I mean, we'll get into this conversation here in a second with the Yankees, but to me, it was two coaches, two managers that put on an absolute fucking clinic.
Yep.
Of how you take teams that are not, not gonna very offensively challenged, and you piece together games with multiple pitchers and multiple pinch hitters, and you just play this game of chess, and
like managers used to do years ago, if you remember that.
And for basically the entire season, Stephen Vogt's been a fucking mastermind at it, and AJ Hinch got hot in the second half of the season, and he started doing it too, and kind of led into this playoffs, and it just seemed like he was pressing the right button every single time, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to watch the series. Unfortunately, obviously, I would have loved to see Detroit win this and go take on the Yankees, but kudos to Cleveland, that, timely hitting out of a select few guys. I think of Stephen Kwan.
He couldn't get him out.
He was
just batted like
just
700
awesome.
For the series.
Awesome defensively, got on base. It seemed like every single time.
Yeah.
Had three hit games in that series, in a 5-game series. Just the guy was incredible. And then obviously
Joe Burrow's going to get like 50
a running touchdown.
Go Joe, had a baby.
But no, it was an awesome series, and I can't say enough good things about Cleveland either. And as good as their pitching is, they're going to be a fucking problem for the Yankees, because that pitch, they can flat out pitch it, and if they can keep the timely hitting that they had, look, it's baseball and anything can happen. So,
and I mean this is what you look at the Tigers Guard series and the Padres Dodgers series. We get 5 games, and especially the Dodgers Padres. Whereas Detroit and the Guardians kind of were more pitching electric. I mean, we saw electricity from all the stars except for Ohtani, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But it was everything you wanted. I mean, we got Tatis going nuts. we talked about Stephen Kwan being hot. Well, Tatis was hot except for Game 5, which is one of the reasons why they ultimately lost. But it was this is what we wanted. And compared this postseason to last year, where the number 1 seeds fell early, and everyone was blaming baseball for the whole playoff situation scenario, however you want to dub it. I think they got it right. I really did. Now you'll have people argue that, well, if you really wanted the best teams, then the Astros should have moved on. Well, the Astros ran into the hottest team in baseball,
right? 100%.
And they didn't even put up a fight. So I really don't even want to hear that.
For the people that have that argument, then I guess you eliminate the wild cards and just have
the number 1 seeds in each
right.
Yeah, like they used to.
Look at if you look over on the other side on the National League, like the Mets get in. The Mets were a wild card that gets in there. I mean, they're in my opinion, they're one of the best teams in baseball. They just didn't play very well and were kind of a roller coaster up and down all season long. But they've gotten hot now at the right time. Yep. And I think the Dodgers are a little bit. They got to be a little bit worried about this roster now, because the Mets are not your typical wild card team.
No, especially considering payroll, superstars. I mean, if you look at the other, you got, we saw the Diamondbacks last year, the Rangers, which the Rangers ended up having a big payroll last year, had the superstar talent, and on the other side we've got Detroit and the Royals, which the Royals have a couple dudes, but when it comes to Royals v Yankees, no one was there to help Bobby Witt. Yeah. And Bobby Witt didn't even really have that great of a series.
He didn't. And that's what it really came down to with me is, the Royals pitched the ball really well. Wasn't like the Yankees put up a lot of runs on them.
And Judge was terrible.
Blew away. And yeah, exactly. And Soto wasn't.
He had 3 hits the first game and then was not heard from.
Right.
They had to be bailed out by Giancarlo Stanton, the 80-year-old dude.
Yep.
And that's why moving forward here, you're right. I think this Guardians team is going to, where a lot of people, and what hinged me to ask you that question is, sell me this Guards team against the Yankees, because I have some ideas, but there's a lot of people that, and especially the baseball talk here and, talking heads that are like, this is just pencil the Yankees in. Just pencil them in. And
yeah, if you look at the two rosters on paper, absolutely Yankees.
Yeah.
But when you start to really dig into it, and these games got to be played, and now, and so I think a 7-game series benefits the Yankees.
Sure.
Because I just watched an entire series, every single out of that series with the Tigers, and the Tigers don't have near the offense that the Yankees have. But that bullpen of Cleveland was shot. Like that game 5, that was shot. They were not ready to go another game, and probably the same thing can be said for the Tigers bullpen. Like each bullpen was shot. So now, you get a day off, you get to recoup, you get to start fresh on it. That bullpen they are so good, but to me, like Cleveland's got to go out and win. They got to win right away. If Cleveland's gonna win this series, I think Cleveland's got to take game 1. They got to take game 1. They got to and
strike while the iron's hot.
Yep.
Keep that momentum going. Now, one big thing that, and I'll run this by you 2Ks, is a lot of folks were saying that pitching kind of grabbed the headlines with the Tigers guard series, and everyone's like, well, was it really good pitching or just really shitty hitting? And if you were to ask me right now in 2Ks, would you take the guards starting staff, the Tigers starting staff, or the Yankees starting staff? I'm taking the Tigers and the guards starting staff over the Yankees right now, hands down. Especially if you're taking Tigers versus Yankees, you could almost say that Skubal and what's his name, Yankees. Garrett Cole.
Yeah, Garrett Cole, and then they got
you could pretty much cancel those two dudes out. But as far as longevity in that starting staff, give me the Tigers, and in the I almost call them the Indians, the Guardians, the same way. When you go to the bullpens, I think both of those bullpens are way better than the Yankees. So is this Guardian staff good enough and deep enough to? And if you're talking about offenses, you got to give the nod to the Yankees. The top half of the Yankees.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But it's the bottom half of the Yankees that, if you're a Yankees fan, has to scare the hell out of you. Who's going to step up? I mean, granted, yes, they stepped up against a very fizzled Royals team, a Royals team that had to survive 2 7-game winning streaks just to get into the playoffs. So it's not like they were playing fantastic ball to get into the playoffs. So with the Royals and the Tigers in particular, I think both teams were early to the postseason dance here. They both showed up and showed out and did very, very well. But I think that moving forward, I think that you're going to see these organizations fill holes where they need to and build around their superstars. I mean, that's what you do. Whereas the Yankees are a little bit further on in that development, but not really the pitching. They're who's going to close for them? Their closer's trash. I mean, he led Major League Baseball in blown saves. So and yes, I honestly think the 7 games is going to benefit the benefit the guards more, just because they're going to have more opportunities to lose. Let's put it that way.
Well, one of the things I will say is, and I said on paper, the Yankees are a better baseball. They have the better roster. I think the better baseball team is Cleveland. I think Cleveland is a better baseball team.
Yes.
The Yankees rely on 2 guys. They have 2 guys. Juan Soto and Aaron Judge have to put up big numbers. And if they put up big numbers in the series, they win. They win the series. But if they play like they did, especially Judge, if Judge hits like he did against Kansas City, I think Cleveland takes this. I really do, because I question who else on the Yankees is going to step up and do it. I don't know. Don't know if anybody is. Is Stanton going to do it again? I won't put any money on that, because he's kind of what got them through. With his timely hitting in the Royals series, he's kind of what got them through those games. And so for me, like, I think Cleveland, they don't have the boppers that are going to hit 40, 50 home runs like you have Judge doing. But the Yankees, they win 93 games this year? I think they win 93, and I think Cleveland won 91, or maybe 94 or 91 or something like that.
Very similar.
The Yankees aren't winning that many games if it wasn't for Judge putting up the numbers that he put up.
And staying healthy all year.
Yeah, and being healthy all year and hitting the home runs that he hit and Soto being on base all the time for him to hit those home runs. It's basically two guys there, to where Cleveland has, it can be one of 6 or 7 different guys that goes off. Lane Thomas goes off.
J-Ram hasn't really.
You're going into that series. You're thinking you're going to get. If I'm me as a Tigers fan, I'm thinking it's going to be Ramirez or it's going to be Naylor that gets us. Like we gotta look out for those two. 3 and 4 in the lineup. Be careful. They don't do shit in the series, and it's Lane Thomas batting 5 that does it, or it's David Fry batting 2 in front of Ramirez that does it. So
with a safety squeeze to seal the game.
Stephen Kwan leading off and batting fucking 500 in the series. So the guy's on base all the time, and then it's timely hitting. They are a better baseball team. And then don't even get me started on the pitching, because the pitching, they might not have the starting pitching names, that the Yankees have, but these games. To me, like the starting pitcher thing is kind of thrown out the window when you get to this playoff thing, because once you see one guy get banged around a little bit, you're got a really short leash, and they're not gonna.
We saw the
very few guys that you're gonna see. Like the Tigers got a Skubal that has a longer leash than everybody, and Garrett Cole is probably gonna have a very long leash because you're gonna try to get everything you can, and he's probably a better option than anything that you bring out of the bullpen at that time. But after that, like say you have any of these games where your starting pitcher doesn't go out there for the Yankees and get you 5 or 6 innings, and you got to go to the bullpen. Well, you already know Cleveland's going to go to the bullpen, and they got the pitchers to go through 4 or 5 innings, and they're going to be just fine. And then if they have any bit of a lead, they got a 1-run lead, or they're tied or whatever, they got a closer that can go 6. And look, Kerry Carpenter got him once. That motherfucker ain't going to get got again the rest of the season. Like, Class A is the best closer in the game, has been all season long.
I don't know
Carpenter had one moment against him.
100-mile-an-hour cutter? How do you hit that?
Yeah.
People couldn't hit Mariano's at 91.
Look, he fucked up against Carpenter and threw him 3 straight sliders.
Yeah.
To me, played right into Carpenter's bag, because Carpenter couldn't keep up with his fastball. You saw that in yesterday's game when he blew him away. So he ain't making that mistake again.
No. And then if you look at the flip side, we've got Dodgers, Mets, which is going on right now. And last I checked, let's give a quick score update here. It's 2-0. Where are we at? Can't even tell what inning it is, but it's 2-0 Mets, top of the second. There we go. Learn how to read the graphic term. So yeah, the Dodgers jump out to a quick lead. This is a series where everyone's saying the Mets are the team of destiny. 2Ks. It's just meant to be. This team just all of a sudden gels underneath Francisco Lindor's just magical leadership skills, and all of a sudden Pete Alonso remembers how to hit, and they're pitching out their ass, and everything's just going right. And it might be the case. I'm not. I said that in a joking voice, but they're playing a Dodger team that is much better on paper. And they've got Flaherty going right now, whereas they pretty much have their 1, 2, 3 ready to go, full rested, even though they went 5, and so did the Mets. But it just so happened that this is the way it worked out. Getting back to Game 5 2Ks with them and the Padres. Similarly, I thought Dave Roberts pulled Yamamoto way early. I mean, he was cruising. I mean, was just cruising. Granted, I understand coming back from injury, hasn't gone more than 5 innings or 75 pitches. But again, this is Game 5. This is, if you lose, you're done. So empty it out, kid, because if we get past this, we'll worry about tomorrow. But I think what some of the Padres' woes in that game was something very similar to the Tigers, where, especially in the beginning innings, it looked like the hitters were pressing. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, and when you get a team like the Tigers where they've never been there, totally understandable.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But a team like the Padres who have been there and at least had some postseason, I'm not going to say success, but at least experience, it wouldn't hit them as hard. And it wasn't like Yamamoto was just blowing people away. He looked normal. He wasn't unhittable, but it was what to kind of sucks even more is Darvish went out and pitched a hell of a game, and very Darvish-esque, I guess you could say, and just kind of a wasted start because the offense was never there. They had like a 20-some inning scoreless streak, and you really can't do that in the playoffs and win games, 2K.
Mm-hmm.
But this series here, Mets Dodgers. I guess the question with this is, do the Mets have enough magic left in the bag?
Yeah, because I mean, like when you start talking about like the whole rosters on paper, like I really think like the Yankees are they're so top heavy. Like it's Soto and it's Judge, and then it's who's gonna have a day.
Yeah.
To where when you look at this Dodgers lineup, it's you have the best hitter in baseball. You have Mookie Betts, top 5 player in baseball. You have Freddie Freeman, been there, done that. Like the guy just,
he's only on
got a
one
little
wheel,
bit of an
though.
injury going on right now, so he's kind of been back and forth. Teoscar Hernandez been
very timely hitting,
but he for this postseason been, I mean, and he's just the power threat that he is. Will Smith been consistently good. Muncy seems like big situations, just does something big all the time.
He has the 2 RBIs for the Dodgers.
Yeah, Kiki Hernandez hits the home run in Game 5.
Does
like,
hit home runs.
Gavin Lux seems like he's starting to kind of figure things out now. This and this is at the bottom of the lineup. So, to me, when you do if you want to do the whole, who's the best baseball team on paper, I think it's the Dodgers, and I don't even think it's close. Yeah. So that's where, the Mets they've been kind of. I mean, I don't want to say that they've been a similar story to the Tigers because they have gotten hot just like the Tigers did. But like this Mets team was supposed to be good. You look at their lineup, like they were not supposed to be a wild card team. They were not supposed to be, a team that was had to get hot to even make a spot. Like they were supposed to be consistently good all year. Like
especially with a Braves team that was down everybody. So the division was pretty much there for the taking.
Right.
Phillies had a great regular season.
Yeah.
And we were talking about,
Phillies had a great regular season, but they were falling off at the wrong time. Like, it was just like, what is going on? What's happened to these guys?
It's as if the Braves weren't pushing them, so they're like,
got too comfortable.
Yeah, we got this.
Yep.
And the Mets said, smacking them out. Nope, we got this. Yep. We got this.
Yeah. So I mean, the Mets have been a great story, and they're hot. I just don't see any way that the Mets win this series against the Dodgers. I just think the Dodgers they're too good. They're too deep. They're deep all over the place. It's going to take some very, very big time heroics, in my opinion, from Francisco Lindor, guys like Pete Alonso. Francisco Lindor has already been a huge hero. Yeah. Plenty of times in this, but he's going to have a few moments like that, like what he did in the Padres series, if they're going to be able to beat the Dodgers.
Yeah, at this time and point, I don't want to write anyone off, but this doesn't seem like it's going to be a very competitive series. I think mostly it's because the Dodgers are just going to the Mets are just going to run out of gas. Yeah. And the Magic's going to run out.
I mean, the Padres, you can make a case and say that they were just as hot as the Mets. The Padres were playing great. Tatis was the hottest hitter in all of baseball. And, the Dodgers were able to get through that series and win that and basically got nothing out of Ohtani. Yeah. Well, I don't think you can keep Ohtani quiet for much longer.
As of right now, he's batting 190 in the playoffs. Yeah. Flip that over to Francisco Lindor's batting 250. Vientos, which I didn't even know who he was until the playoffs started, is batting 415 for the Mets, 2Ks.
Yeah.
But this is the 1-2-3. This is the Ohtani, Betts, Freeman. This is where they just drop Dick and they're like, this is our series. Sorry about it. This team is built to go to the World Series. Mm-hmm. Now, I think there's a lot of baseball fans that are like, well, it'd be cool for a Subway Series. And if that's the case, you might as well hand the Yankees the World Series.
Yeah.
I think wouldn't it be just Major League Baseball is praying to everything holy. They do not get guards Mets.
No, they don't want that. And I think I think even more they would rather see Dodgers Yankees.
Oh, of course.
I mean, those are your two
historic. I mean, you got East Coast, West Coast. You've got Judge, Ohtani. You've got all of the storylines. That's going to get ratings.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
The Subway Series will get ratings on the East Coast. Mm-hmm. The West Coast folks are not going to give a fuck who's playing. They're, all right, Dodgers are done. We're done. Mm-hmm. Screw this. And whereas a lot of baseball fans are going to be like, okay, yeah, I'll watch a Subway Series, but would it be more entertaining to see, Judge and Ohtani. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mookie Betts, Juan Soto. Give me that.
Yeah.
Feed me that all
Oh,
day.
no, they have to be sitting back hoping. They're definitely hoping that the Guardians don't get past the Yankees because that's
Now,
the team
I'm personally rooting for
100%, 100%. Because I'm rooting for it too. And like that Tigers and Guardians series, like I loved watching that. Not just because of it was the Tigers in it. I would have liked it if it was, say it was the Twins.
Mhm.
I would have, kind of a similar team to what the Tigers were. I would have enjoyed watching that also. Like low scoring, you get to watch your managers manage.
Mhm.
These guys, these managers like Boone and Dave Roberts, you're just throwing out the same fucking lineup over and over again. It's not like you're doing anything crazy. It's I'm gonna put these guys out here.
Yeah. Or not Robinson Cano, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the same lineup out there and just hope that it all works out. And maybe occasionally I gotta make a real strong decision on who I'm gonna bring out of the bullpen to pitch. But Guardians and Tigers in that series, fuck, Stephen Vogt took a guy out and made a substitution in the second inning before a guy even got an at bat in the game. He went out there and played one inning of right field, and he was being pinch hit for.
It's like the Little League World Series
change the Tigers made in the second inning. So it's just crazy to me, and that's where like I'll be curious, and I think the way that it just played out, where Cleveland won that series, I think Stephen Vogt wins the Manager of the Year. Hey, and I can't argue that for a second. I think if the tables return, I think Tigers win Game 5. I think AJ Hinch probably wins Manager of the Year. They are both very deserving. I think they're both the two best managers in all of baseball. To look at what they have, and it's hard to argue Stephen Vogt. I mean, winning over 90 games with that roster and just piecing things together, and obviously the great pitching that they got. So, no, it was a fun series to watch. But no, if Major League Baseball has a say in what goes on, they want to see Yankees Dodgers
100%.
all day long.
100%. Let's do a quick picks here. 2Ks. Like I said, we've got the Mets Dodgers going today. Who you taking? How many games?
I got to go Dodgers here, and I think Dodgers take care of business and they get it done in 5.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth. And what do you think about Yankees Guards?
Yankees and Guards. Man, as much as I want to go Guards, I just think Aaron Judge is going to get it going, and I think this one goes 6 games. I'm gonna say this one goes 6. I think Cleveland's able to sneak out a couple, just because of how good that pitching staff is, and look, it would not shock me if the Guardians win this. To me, Game 1 is huge. The Guardians got to get on top on getting that Game 1 and win that one, and kind of try to set the tone of that series. I don't think it's gonna happen though. I think the Guardians are very, very tired coming off of that series with Detroit, where they had to use guys the way that guys aren't normally used, and using them back to back, and I just don't know how long you can do it through a regular season, but I just don't know how you do that back to back shit for the 3 or 4 weeks of playoffs, and I think that's very hard to do. So I think Soto kind of does what Soto always does, and I think we're going to see Aaron Judge kind of start to have his Yankee moments, because he really hasn't had those in postseason play. Like you can talk about his regular seasons and how freaking good he is, and kind of chalk him up as one of those Yankee legends. But in my opinion, to be a true Yankee legend, you have to do that in postseason play.
What Jeets did in the playoffs.
Win a World Series, and you got to do that. You have to put those gaudy numbers up in the playoffs. So I think he gets that. I think he's that good of a player. I think he gets it done.
I'm going 6 games too, but give me the Guards. I think that the momentum is just where it needs to be. I think this is going to be a series where all the pressure's on the Yankees, because they kind of feel like they have to win one, because they're guaranteed to have Soto this year. Who knows, what happens in the postseason. We have him now. We have to win now. And I think he kind of feels that too. And I know Judge does too. So I have a feeling it's going to cause them to press. I think they might win Game 1, but I have a feeling if Cleveland can get out of New York, split, go back to Cleveland, and at least take two there, then we're looking at a really, really good possibility for the Guards to bring this home. So give me Guards in 6. Give me Guards in 6. So when we'll wait till later in the playoffs to give our official World Series pick. But 2Ks, let's talk some college ball, man. 2 weeks in a row, dude. 2 weeks in a row, we've had some fantastic college football. And you were like me last week, where you just got to watch.
Mm-hmm.
You just get all teams are undefeated against BYE. So I mean, it is a great place to be. But hey, that rhymed. Turbo spitting bars over here. But to be honest with you, I wasn't too impressed with the 1 o'clock slate on this, or the noon slate. Yes, I know we turned out to be a very, very good game against Alabama, South Carolina, where Alabama had to come back to win this game. But I'm not gonna lie, I was watching the Tigers game.
Yeah, I wasn't really paying much attention to those early games yesterday.
No, I definitely had it up on the laptop, but was definitely it was getting no sound. So, but Alabama survives a squeaker. I mean, this is 2 weeks in a row now, 2Ks, and this was a game that DeBoer had to have.
Yeah.
If they lose back-to-back weeks, and again, granted, SEC team in South Carolina, but a team that shouldn't even have been in the game, period.
Yeah.
Very, very sneaky. Very, very sneaky. So
it would have been bad. And I saw people saying shit, like, hey, we got to be patient with DeBoer. Like, Saban had his struggles in the beginning too. Saban didn't take over the fucking program that DeBoer took over, where Saban left him still maybe the best program in all of college football. If it's not the best, it was definitely a top 2 or 3. Yeah. And when Saban took over, that same thing can't be said. So
the Alabama team is terrible.
Yeah, we can't go down that. So if you obviously, the loss to Vanderbilt is horrible.
Yes.
It's just terrible. And so now, if they would have backed it up with a second loss in a row to South Carolina, who I would say South Carolina is better than Vanderbilt, but still not a great football team, still not a playoff caliber football team. So that would have been really, really bad. And I even think with them getting the win, DeBoer's got to be feeling it a little bit.
Yeah, we even talked about it last week. That smack in the mouth, first SEC game. Definitely don't want to drop it to Vanderbilt. But now, after that, it's like, and we talked about it last week. How do these teams rally the troops? How do they bounce back? And this Alabama team almost didn't bounce back.
Yeah. Imagine if they would have blew the 28-point lead to Georgia and lose that game. Yeah. And then follow that up with a loss to Vanderbilt, and then follow that up with, this scare with South Carolina. Like, thank God that they were able to figure it out and kind of have the Ryan Williams play to match, Georgia and kind of sneak out of there with that win. Otherwise, it would be bad. I'm not saying that DeBoer is on the hot seat or anything like that, people, but it's not a good look. It's not a good look right now.
No.
Alabama's expectations are not anything other than playoff football. So
100%.
You have to be that. And right now, with the way that they've looked these past couple of weeks, and even I'll even throw in the second half of the Georgia game, they might not be a playoff caliber team.
No, I mean, another team that was we've been kind of waiting for that moment, or waiting for the shoe to drop, 2Ks, is Penn State goes to USC, and this is something we talked about last week as well. How are these Big Ten teams, not only the West Coast teams, going to fare coming to the Midwest, but a team like Penn State, who's all the way over on the East Coast, going to the West Coast? How will that fare?
Right.
And it literally took them till halftime to wake the fuck up.
Yeah. But that's where I want to kind of give a round of applause and clap for, a guy that I've been very hard on, and James Franklin. Like, it's a big game. It's a big game.
He loses these games.
I'm not saying that USC is a great opponent. Obviously have, a lot with the loss to Minnesota, the loss to Michigan. They're not, I don't think they're not a playoff team or anything like that. But for Penn State, going on the road, going to USC, a very, very tough place to play. I don't give a shit how good you are. That's not an easy win ever.
No.
And USC coming off of losses, like, you're going to get their best shot too. So I got to give kudos to Franklin for figuring it out there with Penn State and escaping out of there with a win. I know they got the big one against Ohio State here in a couple weeks. So we're going to see what they're all about. But hey, still undefeated, still a top 5 team, and if the season was over today, they're a playoff team. So
they're definitely playing for the Big Ten title right now.
100%.
And Let's see, what else can we kind of tease before? Tennessee has a real nail biter against Florida. Our boy has had back-to-back weeks now where he's not.
Yeah, this is one where I'm kind of trying to figure this out because they look so good, and then now 2 weeks in a row have not looked very good. Defense is still getting it done, but yeah, that to me, you got to point the finger at Nico. He's got to play better football. If they're going to be a team that fights for a chance to possibly win the SEC or get themselves into that championship game.
And continuing in the SEC, LSU pulls off a nail biter against Ole Miss. I mean, this is normally a game that Brian Kelly loses.
Well, it's normally a game that Lane Kiffin loses also. So
they
was
basically
one of them had to win the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I was actually hoping for Brian Kelly, but you're right. It is what it is. But this was a very odd game. But big win for Brian Kelly. Moves to 5-1. Let's see. Notre Dame takes care of business. That game really wasn't even.
It's unbelievable. I mean, going back real quick at LSU and Ole Miss, though, it is unbelievable like how much those two coaches are alike. Well, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say a whole lot negative about Lane Kiffin. I could sit up here until it was daylight talking shit about Brian Kelly. But as far as their coaching goes and like how they've been, at the programs that they've coached, it just seems like they have always been, big time teams and get these primetime games and have very, very good programs, and a lot of times have top 10 programs, but it seems like when the lights are the brightest and on the biggest stage, they both struggle to win that big one.
You're 100% right.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like in taking this game into consideration, if you're talking about primetime wins, you kind of have to give the nod to Kelly here, at least recent history, at least recent history. Well, let's talk about the game that everyone. Well, let's not even do that. Texas just annihilates Oklahoma.
Is the best team in college football,
hands down.
Texas to me is Michigan from last year. Like, who's going to beat them?
Yeah, because
and I think Texas is like, who can beat us?
Well, then
and then they already played. Kind of. I mean, I shouldn't really. I don't know if you can really say it, but like, because I was going to say they fought through adversity with losing their quarterback, but they might. Their backup quarterback might be better than any other quarterback in the nation too.
He might be better than yours.
That's what I'm saying. Like they possibly could have the two best quarterbacks in college football on the same team.
Yeah. And
I think they're the two best quarterbacks that games translate to the pros. Like, I think Ewers is going to be a stud in the pros.
Yeah, he just has the frame. It's just with him. Can he stay healthy?
Yeah. Yep.
It seems like every year now. Last year, Texas, he gets hurt. They, the whole. Manning thing really wasn't a thing last year. He redshirted last year, so that's when you saw him take some L's last year while Ewers was out against Alabama, which they rightfully should have beat Alabama last year. And now with Manning there, it's like, okay, I think the Mannings handled it very professionally, where a lot of other families would have been like, no, if my kid's balling, leave him in. Stick with the hot hand. Yeah. Sorry about it. You got hurt.
And it's crazy to think, but like Ewers, possibly, maybe. I think if it was right now, I think he's probably the number one quarterback taken in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And Manning is your odds-on favorite to win the Heisman next year.
Yeah.
And you have both of them on the same. And that's not even. And that's we're talking about the offense. I think Texas has the best defense in college football.
Quite possibly. Yeah.
So that's where like they have one of, if not the best quarterback in the nation, and they have the best defense in the nation. And that right there is a recipe for national championship.
Yeah, and Kirby Smart's done it without the best quarterback in the nation. How many times? Just with the very best defense.
Yep.
And a quarterback and offense that is just good enough.
You have the best defense, and you have an offensive mastermind in Steve Sarkisian.
Yes.
Calling the plays on the offensive side of the ball. So, no, it's good things for Texas, and it's basically I'm looking at all the other teams that I've watched in the nation, and I don't know if I've watched anybody play football yet this year that can beat them.
No, I right there with you. But let's talk about the big one, 2Ks. Ohio State goes down to Oregon 32-31, and a lot of controversy in the end of this game.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of controversy. I actually have a couple tweets here. I want to run these by you real quick. This one's from Warren Sapp of all people. He says this is talking about in regards to the Ohio State Oregon game. He says you need to watch how genius this is. 10 seconds left. Oregon calls a timeout. They intentionally add a 12th man late to ensure no big gain occurs. Ball is snapped, no big gain. Obviously, but it's a penalty. Obviously, it's a penalty. But 4 seconds tick off the clock. No big game. 6 seconds left. Only time for one more play. Genius. And if that I watched it go down. But if that's on purpose, bam. I mean, that's that you talking about playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. I mean, that is, and then to kind of back that up, I'll run this one by you, 2Ks. This is from Dan Orlovsky. Dan Lanning make a strong push to be the best coach in college football.
Oh, 100%. Dan, I think you're a little bit late to the fucking party. Like, talking about that. I was talking about that with Saban retiring.
Yeah.
I was talking about that before the season even started. I think, look, he's obviously one of the best recruiters there is, with the talent that he has out there. And
big fat Nike checkbook.
I mean, and to me, like, now he's going to probably have to change the way that he recruits a little bit, just by making, the transition into the Big Ten, where I think Big Ten teams want to get a little bit more physical with you than how he's recruited the last few years, because he's recruiting to basically put up big time points, because that's what the Pac-12 was. You had to score a lot of points to be able to win shootout games, to where now going into the Big Ten, your powerhouse Big Ten teams like your Ohio States, your Michigan from last year, I get that Michigan's not that this year, your Penn States, they want to play more of a bully ball. And so I think Lanning will have to change to that, but it's not going to take him any time to do that. Like, he's proven that he is probably, if he's not the best, he's right up there as one of the best recruiters in the game. And he obviously knows. Look, the guy all he does is win. So I don't think I think Dan is really late to the party on that one, because I think there's a lot of people that have that had Dan Lanning as, if he's not the best coach in college football, he was definitely a top 2 or 3 at the beginning of the season. So,
well, let's, obviously the score was very close, 32-31. Let's break it down a little further. Okay?
I can tell you before we go to that, one more thing off of that too. I can tell you who's not in the top 10 of head coaches in college football.
Right.
The guy on the other fucking sideline of that game last night.
But Will Howard throws for 326 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dylan Gabriel goes 341 and 2 touchdowns. As a team, Ohio State has 100. They run 33 run plays for 141 yards, 2 touchdowns. Oregon runs the ball 31 times for 155 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, and this is, with all of that being said, you would think, getting back to, the Big Ten's going to ground and pound you. If you take away the 153-yard run from Travion Henderson, this is a whole different story.
No.
You wouldn't think that Oregon would outrush a very, very talented rushing team like Ohio State. And never was this game out of reach by any means by either team. And if you really want to kind of expand upon that even further, Oregon missed an extra point and then went for 2 to kind of get it back the next touchdown. Didn't get that either. So, and now I was, to be honest with you, the last Oregon drive, I thought for sure they were going to try to score a touchdown. But again, that's why Lanning's the best coach. He puts guaranteed points on the board. I just think we're so used to, the ESPN thing coming up and saying, analytics says go. Analytics says do this. And it was like a 19-yard field goal to go ahead with like a minute and some and change. So that means, A, very confident in your kicker, who already missed. The kicker didn't miss. The holder bobbled it.
Yeah.
So you can't really be that confident there. And then to be confident in your defense, which is already, given up 31 points to a very talented offense. It's like, okay, this is going to be fun. And then, this wasn't there wasn't a lot of turnovers in this game. It was, it just came down to, I think Will Howard forgot how much time was left on the clock.
Well, that, and, you want to talk about, just another coaching decision for Dan Lanning. Like, Defense was obviously struggling at the beginning. They're trying to figure some shit out. Ohio State's kind of having their way with them the first couple drives of the game, turn those into scores. Dan Lanning starts to figure things out on the offensive side of the ball. The defense starts to kind of settle in. Everything's good. They kick the onside, get it back. Like that's a all right. I got huge balls decision. We could be people could be talking about me the next day and how do you give the ball to Ohio State?
He has a gigantic chub.
How do you give the ball to Ohio State when you're struggling already to stop them, and you're just gonna kick an onside and not get it and give it back to him at the 50 and give him a short field to go score another one on you? No, he does it. He trusts his kicker. He trusts his special teams to make a play. They kick it off the guy on the front there. They recover the ball, and you steal a possession from Ohio State. And you're the home team, and like you're getting your crowd into it by doing stuff like that. Like I thought it was masterclass, and I don't know if he called that timeout at the end of the game and got that penalty on purpose. And I mean, who knows?
That's
if he did
shit.
though, like it is. It obviously 100% is. I don't know, but to me, there's also has to be a story to Ryan Day on this, and because going into the season, it was all about, obviously, Ohio State's returning all these guys on defense. They're returning, Henderson at running back. They brought the kid from Ole Miss and Judkins, who quite possibly could be the best running back. Well, second best running back in the game in college football, because I think our boy Jainty has that.
Yeah.
So, but you're bringing another powerhouse running back in. And the mindset that Ohio State wants to go with is we're gonna just out physical you and we're gonna bully you, and that's kind of how the Big Ten does things.
And we're gonna spend $20 million doing it.
And yes, and in teams in recent history have had very good success bullying Oregon and bullying teams that played in the Pac-12. And you go into this game and you're gonna run those two guys a combined 19 times.
Yeah.
And you were and it wasn't like they weren't having success doing it. They could have. To me, you want to keep this game lower scoring and not get into the 30s with it, because if you're playing a game where you're trying to go shootout style and show off your fucking 5-star receivers and all that against Oregon, who can roll out 5-star receivers also, and has a 5-star quarterback and has all those things that they want to play against teams that want to try to go in a shootout with you. What Oregon does not want to do is play a game where the team runs the football, controls the clock, and hopes that they can keep the game in the low 20s. Oregon doesn't want that.
No.
They want to get the ball and score on you in 4 or 5 minutes and not control the ball for a long time. They want to be able to use all these weapons that they have. And Ohio State just went out there and basically tried to do the same damn thing.
Yeah, pretty much exactly.
Ryan Day is a phenomenal recruiter. He recruits a top 1, top 2, 3 class every single year. Great recruiter. He obviously is very good at recruiting kids in the transfer portal, especially if Ohio State's going to throw up the money that they're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
So he's always going to have top-end talent on this roster. Ryan Day can't win a big game to save his fucking ass, though.
Nope.
Name one. I'm sitting here trying to figure out the games that he's won in the last 3-4 years, a big game that he's won, and I can't come up with it. They found a way to lose a game that they dominated Georgia in the playoff, and they found a way to lose that by botching a fucking field goal. They haven't beat Michigan in the last 3 years, and last year, okay, I would say Michigan was the better roster. The other 2 years, Ohio State was the better fucking roster, and Michigan just beat them. And you want to talk about, was Ohio State's win to Notre Dame that great last year? Fuck no, it wasn't, because that team wasn't very goddamn good.
Nope.
So anybody that thinks that Ryan Day is like this elite coach and that he's going, like me, I'm sitting here as a Michigan fan and I'm saying keep that guy there as long as you can. He can keep on recruiting and having all these great classes, but he's just like Lane Kiffin. He's just like Brian Kelly. He's just like, the list goes on of coaches that can have top end talent, and they're always going to be a top 10 team, but they always are going to find ways to lose these kind of games. And until he can do something different, I will never say that he should be talked about as a top 10 coach in college football right now.
No, and we've went down that road many times, but yeah, I mean, like I said, this is very, very balanced. I mean, the rushing yards are almost identical, passing yards are almost identical, scores almost identical. And when everything's like that, I think you have to give the winning team the coach advantage, because he's the one that pulled it through.
Coach advantage, the home field advantage. Like, to me, you're Ohio State, you're going on the road and you're playing against Oregon, who you obviously know what they can do offensively. Why would you not try to take possessions away from them, bully them, and try to limit them from having the ball as many times? If you're going to give them, I don't know how many offensive possessions Oregon had, but the more that they're going to get, they're going to score more points. They're going to figure things out offensively. But if you can limit them and maybe cut that number by 3 or 4 possessions, just because you run the football, and like I was saying, it wasn't like they weren't having success running the football.
No.
So if you control the ball and keep the ball. Ryan, if you keep the ball out of Oregon's hands and they don't get it as many times, they are not able to score as many touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
The team that has the most touchdowns at the end of the game wins.
Yeah.
You fucking moron.
But yeah, like I said, 2 great weeks of college football. Now, I did bring this up, and I want to take care of this before we move on here. 2Ks. Let's see here. College game day picks. You had Ohio State at Oregon last week, and we both have Georgia at Texas this week. So I haven't seen if they've announced it or not.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
But
right. I mean, who?
The week prior, both of us bricked. Was Georgia at Alabama? Was that that had to have been the game day?
Yeah. And next week it's got to be Georgia for Texas. The only other game I'm looking at is Alabama and Tennessee, and Alabama's not playing like.
And Tennessee isn't.
And neither Tennessee, no. So
I mean, all in all, 2Ks is for picking these. Hey, we're batting over 500.
There you go.
We're batting over 500. So I did tell folks I would give everyone an update on that. 2Ks, let's do a quick whip around the NFL as we wrap this episode up. We got Bengals again. Bengals and Giants. Bengals are up 7-0 in the second quarter. We kind of talked about the Lions Cowboys a little bit. Lions just dominate 47-9. Said T's and P's goes out to Aiden Hutchinson and his family. So hopefully a very, very quick return. But 2Ks, the game, the ticket starts out in jolly old England with the Chicago Bears and the London Jaguars, because the Jags are staying over there because they play again next week there. But I'm really liking the progression of Caleb Williams here. And now mind you, on TikTok, we have been accused of Caleb Williams glazing. And I'm like, okay, if you obviously didn't watch the first week 1, week 2 episodes where we were talking about how garbage he is. Yeah. So if that's glazing, then I'm not sure really what is. But so far, I mean, this is we keep seeing him play his best game as a pro.
Yeah.
Now, is he going to go out and top 275 yards and 4 touchdowns, next week? Probably not the touchdowns. But as far as, I mean, he went 23 of 29 2Ks. Mm-hmm. I mean, this was, I like what I'm seeing. I like the offense getting Swift more involved. Cole Kmet has 2 touchdowns. So does Keenan Allen. So the defense hasn't allowed more than 21 points in a game. And we all kind of thought this NFC North was going to be tough. Mm. But when you have the Vikings at 5-0, the Lions 5 or 6-0. 6-0, sorry. Vikings with 1 loss, and now the Packers and the Bears with 2 losses. Mm. That's that. Mm. I'm granted, we didn't. I'm pretty sure that we all had the whole totally different order than that. But I think that the Bears are kind of didn't start out the way I think a lot of Bears fans wanted it to. But I think Bears fans are happy with where it's progressing.
Right. You go back to the first couple of games in the season, the Bears were trying. It's like they didn't have their identity figured out. Mm-hmm. The word on the street was the offensive coordinator's terrible, the offensive line is terrible, and that might be. Mm-hmm. But to me, when I was looking at it, was the bottom line was they weren't running the ball, they weren't effective running the ball, and now in these last 3 games, they have been effective running the ball. Mm-hmm. You're starting to see the numbers for Swift going up, and with them being able to get the running game going, it's allowed Caleb to stop playing and trying to do too much and just start playing and trusting the system, trusting the process, and just playing quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Because those days of how he played at USC in his college days of trying to make everything happen and running the ball over the place, it doesn't work in the NFL.
No.
So him just playing quarterback now, and he's starting to figure it out, and it's nice to see. And now you get Keenan Allen back healthy. Obviously, for a rookie quarterback, having a guy like Keenan Allen on the field makes everything a lot easier. And Cole Kmet had a great day today, 2 touchdowns. He's been, another guy that's been in the system for a few years now.
Also was the long snapper today.
Yeah. And so, no, it's been very fun to watch. I don't know what they would be talking about as far as Caleb Williams glazing, but I mean, yeah, he was the first pick in the draft, so obviously you're going to talk good about the guy, and you happen to be a Bears fan, so you have to be excited about that. But yeah, next Sunday, Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
huge. We're gonna see them kind of square off together, and
who will we glaze next?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I guess you can say the same thing about the way we've talked about Jaden Daniels too, because he's been amazing to watch. So no, I'm looking forward to watching those two square off together because most in most situations in most seasons, the top quarterbacks picked normally are not very good to watch for the first few years, and we were spoiled last year being able to watch CJ Stroud, and now this year with what we've watched, and Jaden Daniels kind of in every game this season, and Caleb Williams for the last 3 games in a row. It's fun to watch. So if people want to call that glazing, fuck you. I call it good football, and that's what I want. That's what I tune in to watch. So
we'll continue to glaze away.
Yeah.
But one person we're not glazing is Trevor Lawrence, because this team sucks.
Yeah, and that's where you kind of go to the total opposite. Like that was Trevor Lawrence was number 1 pick in the draft and first quarterback taken, and everybody was all about him, and deservingly so. And I thought he was much better in his young career, and and he still is very, very young. But I just think it's almost like it's gotten worse every year that's gone by. So
I think it's the coaching. To be honest with you, I'm not sold on Doug Peterson. And if you're a Jags fan, you just got to. I mean, the only team you play really well is the Colts, so maybe you should just try to play them.
I think Doug Peterson's going to be the next head coach out. Maybe he makes it through the season, but this is definitely his last season if he does make it. He's been a weird one because it just seems like quarterbacks that you like. I always look back at what he did with Foles and how did it work, and he made it and it worked there, but it didn't work with Carson Wentz. And not that Carson Wentz was, anywhere close to the caliber of a Caleb Williams, but Carson Wentz could sling it, and he proved that in his young career. And then it just seemed like
he was an MVP candidate before he got hurt.
Yeah, and then he gets hurt, and then Foles takes over, and Foles just
lights the world on fire.
Yeah.
Outduels Tom Brady. Which never happens. Never happens.
And so that Doug Peterson's just always been a weird one to me because he's obviously won big games and he's got a Super Bowl, and but it's just. What's the problem there? Because you think that Trevor Lawrence is just too good to look this bad, and it's not progressing; it's regressing, and that to me, if I'm a Jaguars fan, that's got to be very, very scary to watch.
Well, the good part is I'm not sure there are many Jags fans, and the ones that are fans probably are in London because it seems like they play there every year.
And the other thing too is like. It's not like the Jaguars are limited with options. Like they have a very good receiving core, especially with
Etienne did go out after one play today.
Yeah, Etienne's been out, but you can make a case that Tank Bigby's just as good, maybe even better as far as just your north and south runner. You got Evan Ingram back today. He had a huge game. He's proven that when he's healthy and on the field, like he's one of the best tight ends in the NFL. His thing has always been how many games can you have him for? But then, the Brian Robinson Jr. been huge for them, and he's another rookie, and they still got, what the hell's the guy that's been there for a couple years now. He's just, Christian Kirk.
Yep. He was the one that set the new wide receiver mark.
Yep. And then brought over Gabe Davis. And, so I think he had a touchdown or 2 today.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah. So, I mean, they have weapons on that roster. So, Trevor Lawrence, looking as bad as he is, there's really no excuse for it.
Well, like I said, I'm chalking that up to the coaching. Cardinals Packers big 34-13 win. Let's check the box score on this one here real quick.
Fucking Cardinals turned the ball over too much. I think they had 3 or 4 fumbles that they.
Isn't this Jordan Love's second or back-to-back games with 4 touchdown passes?
Yeah, and he's kind of getting his receivers healthy.
Yeah,
and
actually wanting to come to practice.
Yep.
That also
Josh
helped.
Jacobs looked really good today. It was just an all-around good win for the Packers. They just looked good, kind of in all phases of the ball. Special teams kind of was the kicker. It just seems like ever since LaFleur has been the head coach there at Green Bay, they've struggled to find their guy as a kicker. And they were spoiled for years and years with Crosby kicking in Green Bay.
Yep.
And ever since he's left, it's just been kind of trying to figure that out. And we've seen it happen so many times. You can get through the regular season and be fine, but when you get to the playoffs, you better have a kicker that's automatic.
And especially kicking in Green Bay, Lambeau is a whole different animal.
Absolutely.
And Marvin Harrison doesn't even get a catch because he left with a concussion.
Yep.
So T's and P's to him to getting back. Colts get a huge win over the Titans, the 1-4 Titans. Did Anthony Richardson play in this game? I know he was cleared.
Flacco.
Yeah.
Flacco is the better quarterback right now.
All he does is win.
I'm not saying
All he
that.
does is win.
Maybe there won't. I don't know. Maybe Richardson will be a guy someday in this league. I'm not going to just completely write him off. And I know that when Richardson is healthy and 100% healthy, I know that he was cleared, but when he's 100% healthy, he's probably going to be back in that starting role. But as far as for Colts fans, they got to be sitting back thinking, hey, we're better when we have Flacco.
Or more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go over to New England 2Ks, and it's May Day. It's gonna be May.
Yeah, it's Patriots. Unfortunately for May, they're just not a good roster, not a good team.
He himself didn't have a bad game.
No,
he himself was.
The Patriots put up 21 points. That already tells you, he's their best option
on this Texans team, which is a very, very, very good team. But his first professional game goes 243, 3 touchdowns, granted 2 picks against a very, very, and got the shit beat out of him. He had 4 sacks. Will Anderson was seeming like he was in the backfield before the ball got there a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
But CJ Stroud goes 192 for 3 touchdowns and a pick. So not really his huge game, but yeah, they definitely welcomed Joe Mixon back with open arms.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see the gaudy numbers for CJ Stroud that we saw in a lot of games last year, just because they're so much better as a team.
Yeah.
And getting Joe Mixon back today, I think it just kind of shows like how important he is to that team.
And not having Nico,
I think it's a blessing for them that when Nico goes down, Mixon comes back, because Mixon's so good at running back, and they don't have to be so pass dependent, and now they can run the ball because I think that's their best offense is setting up their play action for Stroud through their running game. And also you have to give kudos for the addition to bringing Diggs in too, because now Nico Collins goes down, but you got Stephon Diggs, and that's a great option to slide him in from your normal number 2 receiver to your number 1, because he would be a number 1 on a lot of other teams in the NFL.
Sure.
So
yeah,
hopefully they're able to
kind of just key.
And hopefully for the Texans, and I think they will. They're a very good football team, very well coached football tean. I think they'll continue to win. It's probably hopefully 4 or 5 weeks down the road they're able to get Nico Collins back.
Yeah. Had another first game here, 2Ks. The Saints go to Spencer Rattler.
He didn't look bad.
No,
it wasn't bad. It wasn't.
It's definitely not as bad as the score looks.
And it's not. No, because this game was super close, really, all the way up through. And then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, the Tampa Bay just started running the ball all over the Saints defense. I don't know if the Saints defense was just tired. That's what it sure looked like. Because I think we already knew how good Bucky Irving was, but then all of a sudden. It was Sean Tucker. He kind of just come out of nowhere in the fourth quarter and just ran at ease. I mean, ends up with 14 carries and 136 yards and a rushing touchdown. He also had a receiving touchdown in the first half of the game. But no, this game was close. It was close for 3 quarters, and then that fourth quarter. So the score doesn't really do the justice. But this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team is a good team. They're no pushover, and I know that they've kind of been considered kind of a pushover team since Brady had his Super Bowl run there with them.
Mm-hmm.
But Baker Mayfield and the boys they're a pretty good team.
Now, where does if the season ended right now, is Baker Mayfield getting some MVP votes?
I mean, he's got good numbers, and he's not your prototypical quarterback like you just drop back and make it look really easy and make it look good, and not your Mahomes looking quarterback. No. But the thing about Baker Mayfield, and I think and I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm this huge Baker Mayfield fan and I've always rooted for him, but he's really truly, for me, he's so hard not to like because of the way that he plays, and he is a warrior. And if he's on your team, like, you got it, there can't be any problem like going to work that day, because if he's the leader on your team, just the way that he carries himself and the way that it's everything is about the team. It's never about Baker. Like, you have to respect that. I know I respect the hell out of it. The dude is a warrior. He plays through everything. He gets hit. There was a few times today where he takes a hit and you're like, I don't know if he's going to get up after that one. And then you watch 2 plays later and he's the fucking lead blocker on a play down the field, 40 yards down the field, and he's throwing blocks out on guys. So that part of his game, like, I truly respect. I don't think he's a MVP caliber player. I don't think you're going to see that out of him, but he's a guy that with this team and if their defense can start to it can kind of pick it up and get a little bit better, their offense has what it takes to be a Super Bowl caliber team.
Yeah, I agree. Browns Eagles get a very close 20-16 win. We did see AJ Brown come back. I think that was,
and Devonta Smith.
I think that was the key to this game here. But yeah, there's very much turmoil in Cleveland when it comes to Mr. Deshaun Watson and his play, his attitude, and his contract.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot to be figured out there in Cleveland. And I saw a meme that if you're Johnny Manziel, you can officially say you are not the worst quarterback contract in Cleveland Browns history.
Yeah, this one, I mean, I'm not even going to spend a second talking about the Browns, but for the Eagles here, obviously you get your 2 receivers back.
This was a must win for the Eagles.
Jalen Hurts looked a lot better having those 2 guys back, obviously. But yeah, Eagles got to figure it out, because it still was ugly, even having them back, and chalk that up to being some rust, and of not having them for a few games. But no, they got to figure it out, because obviously winning a game 20, you're going to take a win every day of the week in the NFL. But a 20-16 win at home against the Cleveland Browns, who maybe are the worst team in the NFL.
It should have been 45-16.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Eagles fans are obviously going to take the win and be happy with that, but they got to be thinking to themselves, like, shit's got to get cleaned up as we get a little bit further into the season, because the expectation there is playoffs.
Oh, 100%. Let's move on to I almost said Commodores. Commanders at the Ravens. Ravens get a dub 30-23. And I tell you what, 2Ks, as good as Jaden Daniels is playing, this was all about Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. This was about, people are like, okay, well, with Lamar, you have to keep a spy on him so he doesn't run all over you. But at the same time, you don't want Henry to get loose, so you have to bring another guy in the box. And okay, you do that, and Lamar goes for his 2nd game in a row over 300 yards passing. So, I barring injury, 2Ks, I'm not sure how you stop this Ravens offense.
Yeah, Lamar. If the season ended today, I think Lamar is probably my MVP vote. If I, that I have one now.
Yeah, of course.
But I haven't told the audience about that. But yeah,
breaking news.
Yeah, but with the Ravens, to me, it's their offense is really, really good and has looked like maybe the top offense in the NFL these last few weeks. To me, it's not that, but what scares me a little bit away from the Ravens is their defense hasn't looked what our typical Ravens defense. You go back a couple weeks. I think it was a primetime game. I don't remember if it was the Sunday night. I think it was a Sunday night game. They looked awesome against Buffalo. Look, that was their defense was flying all over the place. Josh Allen turned the ball over a few times. Like, they just looked. I mean, to hold the Bills to 10 points, they looked awesome. But every other game other than that one, I mean, you go back to last week, they gave up 38 points in that shootout to the Bengals. Week before that, they gave up 25 to a Cowboys offense that I don't think is very good at all. Week before that, they lose to the Raiders and give up 26 to the Raiders. They lost the first game of the season, giving up 27 to the Chiefs. I mean, you can take that with a little bit of a whatever. But
Yeah.
it just seems like when you look back at the really, really good Baltimore Ravens teams over the years, their defense just doesn't really give up much at all. And this defense, it just seems like there's points to be scored when you play against them. And so when I look forward into the season, like when they, next week they got the Buccaneers. That's a team that can put up a lot of points.
Be a good game.
We just talked about it. Should be a really, really good game in my opinion. So I look for with the Ravens because look, the Ravens' expectations are playoffs and Super Bowl. That's how good of a team they are. I look at these next couple of weeks is where the defense goes next week, especially with Tampa. Are we going to see a game where like what they did against the Bills, where they hold Tampa to less than 20 points, or are we going to see a game like we saw last week when they played the Bengals, where they gave up 30 plus? Because Tampa has the offense that can do that also.
Oh, sure. But yeah, you can't discount what Jaden Daniels did. 269, 2 touchdowns, again 0 interceptions. Also has 22 yards rushing. But yeah, like I said, and you hit the nail right on the head. Baltimore is only going to go as far as its defense is going to let it go. This offense and Washington's defense is okay. They're not world beaters by any means. So to give up 176 yards rushing, I mean, it seems like everyone's getting dimed by Derrick Henry, which shouldn't surprise anybody. But yeah, the last handful of weeks, it seems like he's going over 100 with 2 touchdowns. So this crew seems like it's hitting on all cylinders, and Mark Andrews finally got into the action. Had 3 catches and a touchdown. So I've never been the biggest Lamar fan, but I'm curious to see how far this team goes, because this is the best Baltimore offense I think that Harbaugh's had. Chargers go into the Broncos, get a big win, 23-16. Again, we were Bo Nix glazing as well.
What?
It's like, no. Do you guys even listen to what we say?
I've hardly ever said anything good about him.
And no, excuse me. We were Sean Payton glazing.
Oh, well, yeah, he's
Sean Payton glazing.
Happens to be a Hall of Fame head coach when it's all said and done. So yeah, sure.
But my main takeaway from this game, 2Ks, is what a free agent acquisition J.K. Dobbins has been.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the perfect guy for this Harbaugh system. And, oh, by the way, you still have Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
Who's a pretty good fucking quarterback. Yeah. It isn't putting up the 400-yard numbers that we've seen in the past, but you know what? I really don't think that unless this Chargers team gets smacked in the mouth early and they're playing catch-up, because this was 20-0 at halftime.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Jim Harbaugh is going to run the football.
Yep.
Jim Harbaugh is going to run the football. J.K. Dobbins is going to get 96 yards, 25 carries, 2 Ks. He has more carries than Herbert had completions. So for those of you that haven't noticed, Jim Harbaugh likes to run the football.
Yeah.
And this is just that's why they took Joe Alt number 4 overall or whatever it was. This is the team he wants to play. This is the team he wants to put together. And to do this against a Denver defense that's been on fire, 2Ks, I think this says a lot about the style of play and like I said, that huge Dobbins acquisition.
Yeah, same. I mean, he plays to his strengths. He knows that they don't have a lot of receivers on this roster that are going to beat you downfield and make big plays. So they do a lot of short passing, kind of nickel and dime you, and try to lull you to sleep a little bit, and then they run the football, and that's why you see a Jim Harbaugh team take an offensive lineman in the first round of the draft. Jim Harbaugh walks into that place, and instead of going out and grabbing one of them shiny toys as one of those great receivers, he says, I'm going to grab the best offensive lineman in the draft. I'm going to take him, and we're going to build around that. And I'm going to sign a couple running backs, and we're going to go with them.
And we're going to protect our $400 million quarterback.
Just because we have one of the highest paid quarterbacks who should be probably slinging it all over the place, we're going to use him and just keep him handing the ball off, and he'll make throws when we need him to make throws. And play. And then they know that they have a very good defense. So
yeah, they ran the ball 38 times and only called 21 passing plays.
And the thing is,
34 passing plays. Sorry.
Harbaugh knows that they have to keep games in the low 20s and the teens if they're going to win ball games, because they don't have the offensive firepower to play with teams like, Detroit's offense and teams like San Francisco's offense when they're clicking, and Baltimore's offense. So that's just the style of football they're playing. It's not like they're a great team and they're going to be a playoff team and win a lot of ball games, but he's gonna steal some games here and there. He's gonna win the games that he should. And for Chargers fans, coming from what they've had, you got to be happy with that. And then, 2-3 years down the road, that's when I think we're gonna see the Chargers back on top.
We got the Steelers going into Las Vegas, coming out with a big 32-13 win. Aiden O'Connell at the helm. This just really isn't a good Raiders team, 2Ks.
No.
And it's not even really that great of a good Steelers team. Steelers defense is very good. Najee Harris goes for over 100. I can't remember the last time he went over 100. But they're sitting 4-2. So
yeah, the Raiders.
I'm not sold on Justin Fields. I'm not sold on the Danger Witch. Even though we haven't seen him yet this year, this was the first game he was cleared physically. So you would have to think that you're going to see him at some point. But it's not like Justin Fields is, showing great command of the offense and, just has stepped in seamlessly. I mean, he's had their ups and downs, but they're winning the games that they should, I guess. And, it is what it is. But yeah, we've talked Lions, Cowboys. Let's wrap it up with the Falcons Panthers 2Ks. This Kirk Cousins is fitting in rather well there in Atlanta, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and they protect him. If they can protect him and give him enough time to throw, he's got a lot of weapons.
0 sacks today.
Yeah, they have a great kind of two-headed horseman, as far as the running game goes, and great offense. The thing with the Falcons is going to be kind of as the season goes on, can the defense get better? Can they make stops and not give up so many points? And but as far as if you try to get into a shootout with this Falcons team, and if they're protecting Cousins, he's proved time and time again that he can throw the ball all over the place with the best of them.
And it kind of goes. We even talked about this last year when the same. Now, granted, Cousins wasn't there. The same weapons were there, but when you get Bijan Robinson touches, good things happen. Mm-hmm. When you get Kyle Pitts touches, good things happen. So we've saw a couple weeks where Kyle Pitts wasn't in the mix at all. Mm-hmm. Bijan was kind of up and down. Okay, he went 15 carries for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns, mm-hmm. and he also had he had a couple receptions here. He had 3 receptions for 10 yards. So overall, over 100 yards offense and 2 touchdowns. So not a bad day at the office. Kyle Pitts has 70 yards receiving. So it usually helps when you put the ball in your playmaker's hands. Good things usually happen. So but we've seen in the past with this team that they kind of shy away from that for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. So, I think, again, like you said, 0 sacks. As long as they protect Kirk Cousins, they're going to be in every game.
Right.
Their defense is good enough. Their offense, they can match up weapon to weapon with most every offense in the National Football League. So, and very winnable division. Ultimately, a very winnable division. And if they lose to a Carolina Panthers team, there's problems. There's problems there. Even though Dalton didn't play a bad game, it's just that team is bad. Mm-hmm. That team is just bad. I think we hit all the games, didn't we, 2Ks? Mm-hmm. All right. Is there anything else you want to hit on before we button this bad boy up?
No, I think we covered it all. Covered a lot. Seems like
we did.
Covered 3 different sports.
We did. We're giving the folks some extra time, which is A-OK by me. But yeah, 2K crew, we'll get you out of here on that. Enjoy the baseball playoffs. Enjoy Sunday night football as well as tomorrow night, Monday night. Do we have a Manning cast this week? I think we do.
I think so.
I think we do. Bills Jets in New York. So should be a good game. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers and the boys can bounce back. We'll see if Josh Allen and the boys can get that going. And we got another whole college football slate to talk about next week. Your boys are back as well as mine. So yeah, I'm stoked. I'm stoked. It's the favorite time of year. For those of you that are new, we really don't talk NBA that much. Sorry about it. We really don't talk NHL about it a whole lot. Sorry about it. So if you're here for that, I do apologize because we're not really going to get into that. So we'll sprinkle here and there because there's bound to be some asinine stuff happening with LeBron that we kind of have to touch on. So happens every year.
Yes.
Happens every year. Well, 2K Crew, we get you out of here on that. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.